In this episode, we will confront the safety challenges of high-rise buildings and listen to expert reflections on the future of cities. Talk with Saudi documentary director Riyadh to learn how he uses film to challenge stereotypes. Meet a young Chongqing native who traveled solo across Eurasia on a scooter and hear about his 89-day adventure. And finally, review this week's Chongqing stories that have captured global media attention. Last month, a high-rise fire in Hong Kong drew global attention and reignited debate in China over the challenges of tall buildings. Recently, we interviewed Chu Zhongzhu, chief architect at the Chongqing Architectural Design Institute. He noted that high-rise buildings pose dual challenges in both emergency response and disaster prevention, issues rooted in specific stages of development. Today, he argues, it is time for careful reflection. Let's hear his perspective.
A recent fire has stirred another round of public debate in China over the challenges of living in high-rise buildings. As the earliest generations of these residential towers approach 30 years of age, the conversations are only becoming more frequent. In this context, I spoke with Chu Dongzhu, chief architect at the Chongqing Architectural Design Institute.
When you look at some of the older residential blocks, especially those long stretches of buildings all connected together, you'll notice a lot of light wells left in between. These light wells were mainly designed so more units could get sunlight. But the downside is that the buildings often end up enclosing these spaces like a chimney. So if a fire starts on a lower floor, the flames can shoot upward very quickly.
Approaches to high-rise building management differ across countries. Having worked in North America earlier in his career, Mr. Chu noted that Chinese and North American designers diverge significantly in how they think about tall buildings.
In China's high-rise building codes, one long face of a tower must face the street. That way, fire trucks are always able to park along at least one side of the building. When I first worked in North America, I realized they don't emphasize this at all. About 20 years ago, I watched a Canadian architect design a tower that someone later joked looked like a candle stuck on a cake. In China, even an architecture undergrad probably wouldn't draw something like that. But after talking with them, I came to a conclusion. North American high-rises rely much more on the building itself, on preventing fire from spreading and on making sure people can get out. So, which approach is correct? I'm not ready to give a definite answer. But if we can emphasize both external rescue and the internal quality of buildings, then China's buildings could keep improving on both fronts, response and prevention.
Li Xiaojiang, former head of the China Academy of Urban Planning and Design, warned that high-rise housing could eventually become a heavy burden for Chinese society. Mr. Chu shared his own view on that point.
Now, why did high-rises grow so rapidly over the past few decades? On one hand, it's because of our land system. On the other hand, it was a period when urbanization was rising at an incredible pace. Once people had some financial foundation, buying a home became a way to preserve and grow their wealth. But under these conditions, the supply of housing grew far beyond actual living needs. What happened then? Some homes were rented out, some were lived in, and some were completely empty. And the ability of these homes to resist or warn of disasters is not the same. Jules Verne, the famous French science fiction writer, wrote a novel called Paris in the 20th Century. Writing about a future he would never see, he described a Paris filled with layered transportation systems and skyscrapers. But in that novel, he also portrayed people rushing through the city every day to work and study, yet not feeling happy. So, in a way, literature was already reflecting on this idea of a developed future and questioning whether progress always leads to a better life.
Recently, I had the opportunity to interview Riyadh, director of the Documentary Center at the Saudi Broadcasting Authority. He said documentaries can deeply portray Saudi society, diversity, and challenge stereotypes in international media.
Even more exciting, China and Saudi Arabia are preparing to co-produce a documentary on the new Silk Road, aiming to connect the past and present through real human stories.
The film will showcase the cultural and economic continuity between the two nations, offering international audiences a narrative that goes beyond fast-paced content. Let's listen to his creative vision. Hello everyone, we are here today with Mr. Raid Abdullah Al Abarak. Thank you for joining us today.
مرحبا بك.
I have a series of questions I'd like to ask you. Mr. Abarak, under the Saudi Arabia's vision of 2030, there is a strong emphasis on cultural exchanges and presenting a modern Saudi identity to the world. What unique role do documentaries play in achieving this goal compared to other media formats?
تعد الأفلام الوثائقية وسيلة فريدة لتوثيق التحولات العميقة في تشهدها المملكة في ظل 2030، إذ تقدم قصص واقعية تعكس تنوع المجتمع السعودي وحركة التطور الاقتصادي بأسلوب إنساني عميق. وتتيح هذه الأعمال للعالم فهم الهوية السعودية الحديثة بعيداً عن الصورة النمطية بخلاف البرامج الإخبارية أو الترفيهية السريعة. تمنح المساحة للتعمق في التفاصيل بطريقة تجمع بين المعرفة والمتعة، مما يعزز التبادل الثقافي ويبرز الصورة الحقيقية للسعودية.
In the Middle East, it's often portrayed in international media through the lens of conflict. As a documentary leader in key regional state like Saudi Arabia, how do you approach telling stories to the international community that also highlight the themes of peace, development, and regional stability?
تركز سؤال جيد، لكن تركز الرؤية الوثائقية في المملكة على تقديم صورة متوازنة للمنطقة، لا تقتصر على مشاهد الصراع فحسب، بل تبرز مسارات السلام والتنمية والاستقرار. ويجري العمل على إنتاج أفلام وثائقية وبرامج تضيء المبادرات التعاون الإقليمي والإصلاحات الاجتماعية والجهود الإنسانية المستدامة تأكيداً على الرسائل الوحدة والتعايش. وتسعى هذه المقاربة بين في مواجهة الروايات الأحاديث وتصحيح الانطباعات السلبية على المنطقة، مع الالتزام بالقيم الوطنية وبث رسائل تتوافق مع المسار التنمية الاجتماعية والاقتصادية.
The Belt and Road Initiative is a vast and significant implications for Saudi Arabia. How can documentary filmmaking from two countries best collaborate to tell the human stories behind the BRI and the stories of engineers, business people, and communities beyond the statistics and infrastructure projects?
لضمان نجاح التعاون في مبادرة الحزام والطريق من منظور إنساني، يمكن التسليط على قصص الأشخاص الذين يعيشون تفاصيلها يومياً، مثل المهندسين ورجال الأعمال وسائقين وأسر عائلية مما تأثر بالمشاريع كان جزء من نجاحها. ينبغي التركيز على الرحلات الشخصية، تبادل الثقافات، الأثر المباشر في تحسين الحياة المجتمعية المحلية من خلال تطوير البنية التحتية من توسيع الفرص الاقتصادية والتعليمية. وهذا الأسلوب الإنساني يقرب مبادرة من الجمهور ويحولها من أرقام ومؤشرات إلى قصص واقعية تمس حياة الناس وتعكس الروح التعاون بين السعودية والصين.
26 countries, 30,000 kilometers, 89 days. A 29-year-old man from Chongqing rode a Chinese-made scooter and successfully crossed the Eurasian continent.
His name is Gu Chuang, known as the first person to complete a round-the-world trip on a Chinese scooter. Along the way, he experienced falls, getting lost, and also received kindness from countless strangers.
Let's step into his story and see how this fearless adventurer defined the true courage and freedom through his journey.
我成功的把这辆国产的 UA 小踏板从重庆骑到了布达佩斯，我把重庆的牌照骑到了捷克的布拉格，我把 UA 牌照的国产小踏板从重庆骑到了波兰的首都华沙。兄弟们，成功把 UA 干到了德国的科隆大教堂。我叫顾闯。
My name is Gu Chuang. I'm 26 years old, from Changsha District, Chongqing. On June 15th this year, I left China through the Horgos port, riding a domestically made scooter with a Chongqing license plate, UA. I completed a 30,000-kilometer motorcycle journey across Eurasia and returned on September 14th. I started riding motorcycles right after I was discharged from the military in 2020. Before that, I rode bicycles. I rode a bicycle alone to Tibet when I was 16 and then to Ho Shil when I was 17. Later, I joined the army, but an injury made it inconvenient for me to continue cycling. So I switched to motorcycles. From around last November to February this year, I was riding in Africa, traveling through 4 countries in East Africa. I also met many riders in Africa. I feel that riding a motorcycle gives me a great sense of freedom, and I enjoy it. I was quite surprised over there because motorcycles are extremely common, and many of them are produced in China. However, from what I know, most of those motorcycles are brands like BMW or Austria's KTM. There are very few Chinese brands. So I wanted to bring made-in-China motorcycles out there. I added Chinese elements to the bike's paintwork and painted the sides red. That way, it's visually clear that this is a motorcycle made in China. I started my ride from Korgos, traveling through Kazakhstan, Russia, Georgia, Armenia, and then Turkey. Given the number of countries in Eastern Europe, I decided to ride straight through to France. From there, I looped back through Central and Eastern Europe before finally returning via Russia and Kazakhstan. In Kazakhstan and Russia, people were extremely hospitable. They'd invite me to stay in their homes or offer me food and other supplies. In Europe, people kept more distance, but I still met many kind strangers. For example, at the campsite, a German man saw that I didn't have a light while cooking and gave me his. They would be curious about where I came from. When they saw the paintwork on my bike, my license plate, and the route map I stuck on the top case, they could roughly tell I was a rider from China. They wanted to know which city I was from, and I would say Chongqing. Then they would share what they knew about Chongqing with me, even showing me photos of Hongya Cave and the Chensemen Bridge. The toughest moment was right after entering Russia. I was rushing and didn't check the map carefully, so I turned into a very narrow back road. Halfway through, it started to rain, and the road turned into a muddy, bumpy track. I kept falling and eventually got stuck in the mud. There was no signal on that remote path, and I was completely helpless. Later, I came across a Russian father and son driving by. Even though we didn't speak the same language, they could see I was in trouble and came over to help. After a few hours of effort, they even called some friends to help and eventually pulled me out. I was very grateful to them.
This week, Chongqing continues to shine on the international stage. Let's take a look at the stories that have captured global attention.
This week, the China-Singapore mechanism meetings on bilateral cooperation held in Chongqing have attracted significant attention from major international media outlets. Publications such as Singapore's The Straits Times, Channel News Asia, Asia One, and The Business Times have all released related coverage. At the same time, the vigorous development of Chang'an automobile has also become a focal point for the media, both at home and abroad. Outlets including AFP, Reuters, TradingView, and China.cn have produced multilingual reports highlighting its market expansion, standout models, sales performance, and more. Additionally, the video posted by @Lee Zexin was reposted by influential user @Jesse Pelton, who has 60,000 followers on X. In the video, an anime cosplayer stands against the backdrop of Chongqing's night scenery, with the visuals blending comic-style aesthetics and cyber elements, which has gained popularity among overseas netizens. So far, the video has garnered over 824,000 views, more than 21,200 likes, and over 1,700 retweets.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks to everyone for watching, and thanks to Gosha for her wonderful insights.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you all for watching. We'll bring you more stories from Chongqing next time.
Let's meet showcasing new Chongqing to the world. I'm your host, Alex. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.